Now I'm coming back to my desk. Here I am. I'm going to spin the camera. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm turning off the drum machine. Yeah, okay, there I am. Look, I've got a little acne on my face. Yeah, I'm regressing. I'm about to turn 63 and I feel like I'm 12. So, hi, Miso here in Moab on, what the heck day is it? Sunday, November 24th. And I have this, I had an experience earlier this summer and it was very powerful. And I started to write it down, but it was too complex. And I realized probably the best way to do it was just to say it. So here I am. So back in June, let me get my notes. Here they are. It was June 23rd, 2019, and it was a Sunday, and I was in Salt Lake City. I'd been up there working on some film projects, and I had the day off, and I got it in mind to go to Lava Hot Springs, which is 150 miles north of Salt Lake. And it's a great place. I've been going there since I was born, really. My parents are both from Montpelier, Idaho, which is 60 miles east of Lava. And they were taking us there since I can remember. So anyway, I get in the car, I pack up my cameras, and because I have it in mind to maybe make a little travelogue along the way, especially through Montpelier. And my idea is to go to Lava, stop, soak, then keep going to Montpelier. So I do that. I drive, I get to Lava. It's about, let me look at my notes. It's about 11 or 11:30 a.m. when I get there. And it's not very crowded, and I come in on the west entrance and drive all the way up Main Street to the State Foundation Hot Springs, which is the one that's been there forever. Up at the end, the outdoor one, and I park, and I'm all groovy, and I go in, and I soak for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and it's getting more and more crowded as time goes by. So I'm like, pretty soon it's going to be time to go to Montpelier. So I get myself together, I float around in bliss one more time, then I get out, I dry off, I change my clothes, and I walk out to my car, and I'm parked right on the curb right out front, up the walkway. And I get out there, and I look down Main Street to the west, and down at the end of Main Street, right where the highway road comes into town, I see emergency vehicle lights flashing and blocking the lanes, and I paused for a minute, and part of me wanted to go check it out. Like my friend Tim Issacs used to say, you know, a good news reporter would run right down there. That went through my mind, and I laughed, and I didn't. I actually got in my car and I went the other way. There's another way out of town on the east end, so I avoided the whole emergency situation that was going on down on Main Street. And I drove out on the east end, and I got up to the highway, and then I went back west just a little bit because there's an access road to the railroad tracks, which are up on the ledge above the hot spring, on that side of the road, and I stopped there, and I thought about my friend Tim Issacs, how he and I used to go up there and smoke pot when we'd go to the hot springs, and we'd sneak up there, and no one ever cared. There's a sign at the bottom that says no trespassing, but it's railroad property, and as long as you're not causing trouble, no one seems to care. So anyway, I went up there, and I thought about Tim and all the years that we've been going to Lava and how fun that was to do that. And then I was hoping a train would come by because they pass by right there and they go around the corner. It's fantastic, but it didn't happen. So I drove back down onto the highway and headed east toward Montpelier. And I went up over the hill. There's a pass right there. There's a climb and there's a summit. And then you drop down into the next valley, which I think is, well, it's where Grace, Idaho is. And there's a Lundgren Canyon. I looked on the map later. Anyway, I come up over the summit and I drop down, and I'm not all the way down the summit. And the lighting off to the right in the mountains is stunning. So I'm like, I gotta pull over and start the travel log right now. So I did. And I got my drone out, and she looks like that. Her name's Katie Lee. It's a DJI Spark. And so I parked on the access road, and I loaded everything up, and I flew out once for maybe 5 minutes. I got a little footage. I came back, I set the adjustment, the exposure and saturation and stuff. And then I flew back out, got a little more footage, and then by then I'd figured out what I wanted to really do. So I flew back, landed, changed the battery, put a fresh battery in. Now I was all set. I had the good settings I wanted and everything. So I flew out, and I was heading out toward the mountains. It's a valley. You'll see in the movie because it's following this description. And I flew out over this beautiful meadow, and there were some trees on the right side, real tall trees, pines, I think. Maybe, I'm not clear on that, but pine trees on the right side. And I kept them in the frame in the beginning, and then I sort of drifted left a little, and I kept going out. And everything was going great. I'm flying along, and about exactly 1 minute into the flight, all of a sudden, I lose total control, and I don't know what's going on. And I've had runaways before, and sometimes it's temporary and you regain it, but this was really different. It did all kinds of stuff. It went up, further away. I didn't know what the heck was going on, and it kept going further away. And it was way out into this meadow. There was no road access out there, and those big pine trees were there, so it's like, uh-oh, and I didn't know what was going on. I kept trying to regain control, and I just had none, and it was spooky, really. I was like, what the heck is going on? It's been hijacked. And I kept thinking it's going to crash into those trees because it was going all over erratically. And so in the film that you'll see, you'll see me start to get a little panicky and start walking down the access road anyway. It went way out into the meadow, and it didn't hit the trees, and it landed in the tall grass. I could see it from up on the access road. It was way the heck out there, but I could see where it went down. And I was thankful that at least it didn't hit the trees, but I couldn't really tell what it had gone down into. So I walked all the way down the access road as far as I could, and then I went and bushwhacked it out across the meadow, and lo and behold, I found it. And the grass was tall. It was this tall. So I felt really lucky that I found Katie Lee, and she was down in the grass, and there was some grass wrapped around the props, and there was one broken prop, but that was it. I was so happy for that because they're replaceable. They're not expensive. I have extras. And so I found her. I felt great relief, and I was frustrated walking down. I was like, oh shit, I'll never find her. So I had a sense of elation. There was grass wrapped around the props and stuff, so I cleaned her up a bit and trudged back up to my car. And I was stymied. I'd never had an experience like that, you know. Usually when it runs away, it'll just crash pretty much right away. But it did so many moves, I didn't know what the heck was going on. Anyway, I just chalked it up to what my buddy Tim Issacs and I have always said over the years as film electricians, that it's 90% science and 10% voodoo. And I just was like, okay, whatever, at least I got it back. And once I got it cleaned up, I put another battery in it, and it turned on, so it wasn't broken, and I was thrilled. So I got in my car and I headed toward Montpelier, and I filmed along the way. That's another movie. It's coming up. And so I went to Montpelier, filmed. I went back to Salt Lake. Monday, I went back to work. I think it was Monday afternoon, my friend Lori Mertz called me to say, did you hear the news? And I called her back, and I said, what news? And she said, Tim Issacs died yesterday. And it still sends shivers up my spine. Right now, my head is buzzing. Bzzz. And I was at work, and I was on the phone, so I couldn't really ask her details, so I didn't. And I went back to work, and we finished, and then I called her when I got off, and I got more details that he had died, and he was at Lava Hot Springs. And wow, then I was just like, what? Are you kidding me? I was there, and then I started to put it all together, and I realized that must have been the emergency vehicles that I saw. And I was stunned. And yeah, so I won't go into a lot of detail about the specifics of that. I went to the memorial service a few days later. I think it was on Wednesday maybe, and it was so great to see Tim's kids, Sarah and Patrick, and Tim's ex-wife Shannon was there as well, and it was fabulous because I haven't seen her for years. She's remarried, and Tim had gotten remarried, and his wife Val died a year ago, and he was pretty sad about that. But I had gotten the opportunity to work with him on a job about 6 months earlier, and I'd been going out of my way to go see him, so I was, needless to say, it was an emotional event. Anyway, so we're at the memorial service, and I was talking to Sarah, and she told me the story. She was with Tim in Lava Hot Springs. They had a tradition of going, I think, for Father's Day every year. And they went, and they were there, and she said, yeah, we had gone on Saturday, and everything was great, and we stayed over Saturday night, and Sunday morning we got up and we went to breakfast, and then we went walking around town looking at the gift shops, and that's when Tim collapsed on the sidewalk right there on Main Street. And in front of the crystal shop, she told me. So I was just... It was hard to take all that in. It was so... Well, it's hard to describe. When people pass away, the finality of it is... It sets your mind into a whole other place. Anyway, and so then all of a sudden I remembered the runaway drone. And I was like, holy cow. And it all sort of rushed into me, and I was like, Tim... That's right when Tim was dying, and I hadn't looked at the footage, that footage. I looked at the Montpelier footage, but not that first clip. I'd kind of put it out of my mind and just been glad that I'd got the drone back. And so I I went home that night. I took off work to go to the memorial, and then I went back to work, finished, then I went home that night and I looked at the clip and it was unreal. Someone else took control of it and I know who it was. And watch it. Here, it's coming up right now. I'm going to quit babbling and put it on. It's 3 minutes and you'll get the picture. Thanks for watching and thanks for caring. right then, there you have it. Amazing, totally amazing. Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of thing Tim would do. He was such a prankster. And how about that smooth landing? It was just stunning. It still really moves me every time I watch it. And there you have it. I wanted to share it, and particularly for Sarah and Patrick Issacs. I love you guys, and I love Tim Issacs, and I am so honored to have known him in this life and been a partner in lighting and production and show business and life and learning about life and staying creative, and creative is the word for that final landing. The whole thing. Unreal. Okay, over and out. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. 2019. See you soon. Bye.